The blackness of space stretched on endlessly, a void broken only by the distant glimmering of stars. Drifting silently amidst this cosmic stillness, a fleet of alien ships lay crippled, their once formidable armaments reduced to twisted metal. Aboard the lead vessel, Commander Vrax stared grimly at the display screens, his 4 eyes narrowed in anguish. The battle had been a massacre, their proud Xenos armada decimated by the unexpected ferocity of the human fleet. Status report. Vrax barked, his voice thick with thinly veiled fury. Engines and weapons are offline across the fleet. His first officer replied, mandibles clicking anxiously. Shields at critical levels. Casualties mounting by the minute. Vrax's clawed fist slammed down on the console, eliciting a shower of sparks. Damn those humans. Their technology, their tactics, they fight like no enemy we've ever faced. The first officer hesitated, sensing his commander's volatile mood. What are your orders, sir? Vrax let out a low, rumbling sigh. Signal the rest of the fleet. We're to make an emergency jump to the nearest habitable system, as far from the humans as possible. But, sir, our engines are damaged. We may not have enough power. Do it. Vrax snapped. We cannot fight them. Not now. Not with our forces decimated. We must regroup, rebuild, and then. His words trailed off, amber eyes glinting with determination. Then we will have our vengeance. With trembling claws, the first officer transmitted the desperate order. One by one, the Xeno ships activated their failing FTL drives, vanishing into the void as they fled their human pursuers. Vrax watched them go, his mandibles clenched tight. This is not over, humans, he growled. Not by a long shot. On the bridge of the human flagship, Admiral Ava Sinclair stood silently, her gaze fixed on the rapidly retreating alien vessels. The battle had been swift, decisive, and deeply unsettling. Ma'am, the Xenos fleet is making a jump to light speed, her first officer reported, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Shall we pursue? Ava shook her head slowly. No. Let them go. We've done enough damage for one day. The first officer's brow furrowed. But, Ma'am, this is our chance to cripple them, to ensure they can't regroup and threaten us again. Shouldn't we finish what we started? Ava's eyes darkened. Sometimes, the greatest victory is in showing mercy. She turned to face her crew, her expression grim. Secure the area, provide aid to any survivors, and prepare a report for Starfleet Command. This incident will need to be addressed. As the hewn vessels moved to assist the battered Xeno ships, Vrax watched from his viewport, his claws clenching in impotent rage. The humans had spared them, for reasons he could not fathom. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. This was not the end. The medical bay of the UNS Tempest was in a state of frantic activity as the crew worked tirelessly to treat the injured Xeno survivors. Ava Sinclair strode through the chaos, her features etched with a solemn determination. She paused beside a gravely wounded alien, its 4 eyes blinking slowly as it struggled to breathe. Hold on, friend, she murmured, gently placing a hand on the creature's bony shoulder. You're safe now. The Xenos let out a weak, rattling cough, its mandibles quivering. Human. It rasped, the word tinged with a mixture of disbelief and anguish. Why? Ava's expression softened. Because it was the right thing to do. She glanced up at the attending medic. How is he? The hewn doctor shook her head grimly. Not good. Internal injuries, severe plasma burns. I'm not sure he'll make it. Ava's jaw tightened, a flash of pain crossing her features. Do everything you can. I want him alive. The doctor nodded, her expression resolute, and hurried back to her tasks. Ava watched her go, then turned her attention back to the wounded alien, who was now staring at her with an intensity that belied his fragile state. Why? The Xenos repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. Your kind showed no mercy. You destroyed us. Ava's gaze hardened. I'm well aware of the atrocities committed by my people, both here and elsewhere in the galaxy. But that is not who we are, not all of us, at least. She leaned closer, her eyes searching the aliens. I won't let that cycle of violence continue. Not if I can help it. The Xenos stared at her, confusion and a glimmer of hope warring in his expression. Then, slowly, his mandibles curved upward in what Ava recognized as a smile. You are different, he murmured. Perhaps there is hope for your kind after all. Ava nodded solemnly. We can only try. She gave the alien's shoulder a gentle squeeze, then turned and strode away, her mind already whirling with the implications of this encounter. In the command center, Ava's first officer, Commander Wrecker, was waiting for her, his face etched with concern. Admiral, I've received a priority message from Starfleet Command, he said, his voice grave. They're not pleased with how we handled the situation. Ava's eyes narrowed. Explain. Wrecker hesitated, then continued, They're demanding a full report, and they want us to turn over the surviving Xenos vessels and their crews for further interrogation. Ava's jaw tightened. Interrogation. That's a diplomatic euphemism for torture, isn't it? Wrecker nodded reluctantly. I'm afraid so, ma'am. They view the Xenos as a threat that needs to be neutralized by any means necessary. Ava's expression darkened. Well, they'll have to go through me first. She turned and strode toward the communications console, her mind racing. Prepare a response, Commander. Starfleet is about to learn that I don't take kindly to being overruled. The cramped confines of the Xenos medical bay were tense with unspoken fear as the injured aliens huddled together, their eyes darting warily towards the human medical staff. Vrax stood among them, his amber gaze fixed on the distant form of Admiral Ava Sinclair as she conversed with her officers. She spared us, he murmured, his mandibles clicking softly. But for what purpose? The first officer, his own wounds still bandaged, stepped up beside him. Perhaps the humans are not as merciless as we believed. This, Ava Sinclair, seems different. Vrax let out a low, rumbling growl. Do not be fooled, Crixon. Humans are treacherous by nature. They have shown us their true face in battle. Now they seek to toy with us, to break us through their so-called mercy. Crixon's eyes narrowed. And what would you have us do, Commander? Our fleet is crippled, our forces decimated. We are in no position to fight. Vrax's claws clenched into fists. We wait. We bide our time, and we watch. His gaze hardened. And when the moment is right, we strike back with a vengeance the humans cannot possibly imagine. Across the medical bay, Ava Sinclair's expression was grim as she listened to Wrecker's report. So Starfleet wants to interrogate the Xenos survivors, is that it? She murmured, her voice deceptively calm. Wrecker nodded, his own features etched with unease. That's the directive, ma'am. They see the Xenos as a threat that needs to be neutralized. Ava's eyes narrowed. Over my dead body. These people have suffered enough. I won't let Starfleet turn them into prisoners or lab rats. Wrecker shifted uncomfortably. Admiral, I understand your concerns, but you're going against a direct order from command. They're not going to take kindly to. Ava raised a hand, silencing him. I don't care, Commander. I'm not handing these people over, and that's final. She turned and strode towards the medical bay, her expression resolute. Prepare a secure channel to Starfleet headquarters. It's time I had a discussion with the Admiralty. As Ava approached, Vrax's eyes narrowed, his claws tightening around the handle of the makeshift weapon he had fashioned from scavenged medical equipment. But before he could act, the hewn admiral stopped and met his gaze, her expression calm and unflinching. Your people are safe, Vrax, she said softly. I won't let them be harmed any further. Vrax stared at her, his mandibles working as he struggled to find the words. Finally, he let out a slow, shuddering breath. Why? Ava's lips curved into a small, sad smile. Because it's the right thing to do. The communications channel crackled to life, and Ava Sinclair found herself face to face with the grim visages of Starfleet's top admirals. She steeled herself, unwavering in her resolve. Admiral Sinclair, the lead admiral, a grizzled veteran named Briggs, said coolly, "Care to explain why you've disobeyed a direct order from Starfleet Command?" Ava met his gaze evenly. "With all due respect, sir, I'm not about to hand over these Xenos survivors to be interrogated or worse. They've suffered enough." Briggs' eyes narrowed. "You seem to be forgetting that these aliens nearly annihilated our forces in that last engagement. They're a threat that needs to be neutralized, and we can't afford to show them any mercy." Ava's jaw tightened. "That's where you're wrong, Admiral. Showing mercy isn't a weakness, it's a strength. These people have already paid dearly for their actions. Surely we can find a more constructive path forward than torture and subjugation." "Constructive path forward?" Briggs scoffed. "The only path forward is to ensure that Xenos can never threaten us again. And that means taking whatever measures are necessary." Ava's eyes narrowed. "With all due respect, sir, I can't in good conscience follow that order. These are living, breathing beings, not just faceless enemies. They deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, not turned into prisoners or lab rats." Briggs' expression darkened. "You're playing a dangerous game, Sinclair. Disobeying a direct order from Starfleet Command is a serious offense. Tread carefully." Ava met his gaze unflinchingly. "I understand the risks, Admiral. But I'm not willing to compromise my principles, not even for Starfleet." She paused, her voice hardening. "If you want those Xenos, you'll have to come and take them. And I can assure you, it won't be easy." Briggs' lips thinned into a tight, disapproving line. "This conversation is over, Sinclair. You have your orders. I suggest you follow them, for your own sake." The channel closed, leaving Ava alone in the tense silence of the communications room. She let out a slow, weary sigh, knowing full well that she had just placed herself on a collision course with Starfleet. But as she glanced back towards the medical bay, her resolve only hardened. "I won't let them down," she murmured. "Not this time." Back in the medical bay, Vrax had watched the exchange with a mixture of wariness and begrudging respect. Despite his earlier misgivings, he could not deny the human admiral's unwavering commitment to protecting his people. "She defies her own kind for our sake," he murmured, his mandibles twitching. "Perhaps there is more to these humans than we have seen." Crixon, standing beside him, nodded slowly. "It would seem so. This Ava Sinclair is no ordinary human. She possesses a strength of character that we have not encountered before." Vrax's eyes narrowed. "Do not mistake her compassion for weakness, Crixon. These humans have shown us the full extent of their capabilities in battle. We would be foolish to underestimate them again." Crixon inclined his head. "Agreed, Commander. We must be vigilant. But perhaps there is a chance for understanding if we are willing to see it." Vrax's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Perhaps. The medical bay of the UNS Tempest was a study in contrasts as the human crew worked tirelessly alongside the wounded Xenos survivors. Ava Sinclair moved through the chaos, her expression grim but resolute. As she approached the area where Vrax and Crixon were resting, the Xenos commander straightened, his amber eyes narrowing warily. "Admiral Sinclair," he said, his voice low and cautious. "To what do we owe this visit?" Ava met his gaze evenly. "I wanted to check on the status of your people, Vrax, and to assure you that I will not be handing you over to Starfleet, despite their demands." Vrax's mandibles clicked in a gesture Ava was beginning to recognize as puzzlement. "I do not understand. Why would you defy your own kind to protect us?" Ava's expression darkened. Because it's the right thing to do. Your people have suffered enough at the hands of my people. I won't let that cycle of violence continue, not if I can help it. Vrax stared at her, his 4 eyes blinking slowly. You speak of mercy and compassion, yet your kind showed us no such kindness in battle. You destroyed our fleet, killed countless of our warriors. His claws clenched into fists. Why should we trust your words? Ava's gaze hardened. I won't pretend that my people are innocent, Vrax. We've done terrible things, both here and across the galaxy. But not all of us are the same. I'm living proof of that. Vrax's mandibles parted in a humorless approximation of a smile. And how can I be sure you are not merely deceiving us, lulling us into a false sense of security before delivering us to your superiors? Ava's eyes narrowed. You'll have to take me at my word, Vrax. I've staked my career, perhaps even my life, on protecting your people. That's not a risk I would take lightly. Vrax studied her for a long, tense moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he inclined his head in a slow, cautious nod. Very well, human. I will trust your word, for now. His gaze hardened. But know this. If you betray us, if you hand us over to your superiors, I will make sure you live to regret it. Ava held his gaze, unflinching. I understand. And I give you my word that I will do everything in my power to keep you and your people safe. As she turned and walked away, Vrax watched her go, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. The Teuton Admiral's actions had shaken the very foundations of his worldview, and he was beginning to realize that perhaps the gulf between their species was not as wide as he had once believed. Interesting, Crixon murmured beside him. She is either the most courageous or the most foolish human we have ever encountered. Vrax's eyes narrowed. Time will tell, Crixon. Time will tell. The tension aboard the UNS Tempest was palpable as Ava Sinclair summoned her senior officers to the command center. She stood before them, her expression grim. Starfleet Command has made it clear that they want the Xeno survivors turned over for interrogation. She began, her voice low and serious. But I've made it equally clear that I won't be complying with that order. Riker shifted uncomfortably. Admiral, with all due respect, you're putting your career on the line. Defying a direct order from Starfleet. Ava raised a hand, cutting him off. I'm well aware of the risks, Commander. But I can't in good conscience hand these people over to be tortured or worse. They've suffered enough. The assembled officers exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of Ava's decision settling heavily upon them. So what's the plan, then? One of the junior officers, a young lieutenant named Shepard, asked tentatively. How do we keep the Xenos safe from Starfleet? Ava's gaze hardened. We have 2 options. Option 1. We take the Xenos vessels and their crews and make a run for it, try to outrun Starfleet's pursuit. And Option 2. Riker asked, his brow furrowed. Option 2, Ava said, her voice unwavering, is to stand and fight. We defend the Xenos against any attempt by Starfleet to take them by force. A hush fell over the room, the weight of her words settling heavily upon them. Admiral. Riker began, his voice tinged with disbelief. Are you suggesting we open fire on our own people? Ava's eyes narrowed. If that's what it takes to protect the Xenos, then yes. I won't let them be harmed, Riker. Not on my watch. The officers exchanged uneasy glances, the gravity of the situation sinking in. Ava could see the conflict in their eyes, the struggle between duty and conscience. I know this isn't an easy decision, she said, her voice softening. But these people have already suffered too much. I can't turn a blind eye to that, no matter what Starfleet demands. Riker's brow furrowed, his expression torn. Admiral, I can't approve of this. Firing on our own ships, our own people. It goes against everything we stand for. Ava's gaze hardened. Then don't approve it, Commander. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm telling you what I intend to do. She turned to the rest of the officers, her expression resolute. Anyone who doesn't want to be a part of this is free to leave. But I won't let the Xenos be taken, not while I'm still standing. The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Ava could see the conflict in her officers' eyes, the struggle between duty and conscience. But as she met their gazes, one by one, she saw something else. A glimmer of resolve, a spark of defiance. It was in that moment that Ava knew she wasn't alone in this fight. The Xenos survivors huddled together in the medical bay, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and uncertainty. Vrax stood at the center of the group, his four eyes scanning the room with a calculated gaze. "The humans will not give us up without a fight," he murmured, his mandibles clicking softly. "I can sense their determination, their resolve." Crixon, standing beside him, nodded solemnly. "Then we must be prepared to defend ourselves, should it come to that." Vrax's claws clenched into fists. "I will not allow my people to be taken prisoner, to be subjected to the cruelty of the humans' interrogation." His eyes narrowed. "We will fight, if necessary." Crixon's expression darkened. "But our forces are crippled, our weapons all but useless. How can we hope to prevail against the might of the human fleet?" Vrax's mandibles parted in a grim smile. "We may not have the strength to defeat them outright, but we can still make them pay dearly for their arrogance." He turned to face the gathered Xenos, his voice rising with conviction. "We will fight with everything we have, and if we die, we will do so with honor. The humans will not take us without a fight." A chorus of ragged cheers rose up from the Xenos, their injured bodies belying the fire in their eyes. Vrax watched them, his expression hardening with determination. "This is not the end," he murmured. "This is merely the beginning." Elsewhere on the Tempest, Ava Sinclair stood before her assembled officers, her expression grim but resolute. "I know what I'm asking of you is unprecedented," she said, her voice low and serious. "Firing on our own ships, our own people. It goes against everything we've sworn to uphold." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. "But these Xenos have already suffered enough. I won't let Starfleet turn them into prisoners or lab rats, no matter the cost." Wrecker stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "Admiral, I can't in good conscience give the order to fire on our own vessels. It's not right. It's not." Ava raised a hand, silencing him. "I understand your hesitation, Commander. But this is my decision, and I'm prepared to take full responsibility for it." Her eyes hardened. "If Starfleet wants the Xenos, they'll have to come through me first." The officers exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of Ava's words settling heavily upon them. Ava could see the conflict in their eyes, the struggle between duty and conscience. "I know this isn't easy," she continued, her voice softening. "But these people have already suffered too much. I can't turn a blind eye to that, no matter what Starfleet demands." Slowly, one by one, the officers began to nod, their expressions resolving into grim determination. Ava felt a surge of pride and gratitude, knowing that she was not alone in this fight. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "All of you. Now, let's get to work. We have a battle to win." The blackness of space was shattered by the sudden eruption of weapons fire as the UNS Tempest and her sister ships engaged the approaching Starfleet vessels. Ava Sinclair stood on the bridge, her eyes narrowed with fierce determination. "All ships, target the enemy's engines and weapon systems," she barked into the comm. "We need to cripple them, not destroy them." The hewn vessels maneuvered with precision, their phaser cannons and torpedoes finding their marks with devastating accuracy. Ava watched grimly as the Starfleet ships began to falter, their hulls scarred by the relentless barrage. "Admiral, the Xenos vessels are powering up their own weapons," Riker reported, his voice tinged with concern. "They're joining the fight." Ava nodded, her expression grim. "Let them. We need every advantage we can get." The Xeno ships, their damaged engines straining, unleashed a withering hail of plasma blasts and particle beams, their weapons carving deep gashes into the Starfleet vessels. Ava watched, a mixture of pride and unease swelling in her chest. "Ma'am, we're receiving a priority hail from Admiral Briggs," Wrecker said, his brow furrowed. "He's demanding an immediate ceasefire and the surrender of the Xenos." Ava's jaw tightened. "Tell him to go to hell. We're not backing down." Wrecker's eyes widened. "Admiral, you can't be serious. Firing on Starfleet ships, that's treason. We could all be court-martialed, or worse." Ava's gaze hardened. "I made my choice, Wrecker, and I'll live with the consequences." She turned to the rest of the bridge crew, her voice resolute. "All hands, prepare for a full-scale engagement. We're going to show Starfleet that you don't mess with the Xenos, or with me." The battle raged on, the two fleets trading blows in a desperate struggle for supremacy. Ava watched with bated breath as the Xeno ships, despite their crippled condition, fought with a ferocity that belied their injuries. "They're not going down without a fight," she murmured, a grim sense of pride swelling in her chest. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the lead Starfleet vessel, sending it careening out of formation. Ava's eyes widened as she realized that Xenos had targeted the ship's warp core, crippling it in a single devastating strike. "My God," Wrecker breathed, his voice tinged with awe and horror. Ava's gaze hardened. "Finish them off, all ships. We can't let Starfleet regroup." The human and Xenos vessels unleashed a devastating barrage, their combined firepower tearing through the Starfleet vessels one by one. Ava watched, her heart pounding, as the enemy ships were systematically disabled, their crews abandoning ship in escape pods. As the last Starfleet vessel limped away, Ava let out a slow, shuddering breath. The cost had been high, but they had prevailed. "Secure the area, provide aid to any survivors," she ordered, her voice weary but resolute. "And get me a channel to the Xenos vessels." Moments later, Vrax's imposing form filled the view screen, his four eyes glinting with a mixture of triumph and wariness. "Admiral Sinclair," he rumbled, his mandibles clicking. "You have proven yourself a worthy adversary, and a valuable ally." Ava nodded, a small, tired smile tugging at the corners of her lips. "And you, Vrax, have shown me that the Xenos are more than just enemies to be conquered. Perhaps, in time, we can find a way to truly understand each other." Vrax considered her words, his expression unreadable. Then, slowly, his mandibles curved upward in a gesture Ava recognized as a smile. "Perhaps," he murmured, "the future, it would seem, is full of possibilities." As the human and Xeno ships moved to render aid and secure the area, Ava Sinclair stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the distant stars. The battle had been won, but she knew the war was far from over. Yet in that moment, she felt a glimmer of hope. A hope that perhaps, through unexpected alliances and shared struggle, a new era of understanding could begin to take root amongst the stars.